gonna present one of the best trap in chess, which is called Queen Gambit Accepted. This trap is only applicable for white. We start by playing d4. Black usually reply the center with d5. White will play c4. The reason why this opening is called Queen Gambit Accepted is because black accept the white offer, which is the c4 pawn. Then white goes to e3. Black will try to defend the c4 pawn, which is under attack by the white light square bishop. So black move pawn to b5. White attack the b5 pawn by playing a4 pawn. Black cannot play a6 because after captures, white will get free rook. So instead, black plays c6. White capture the b5 pawn and black also capture the white b5 pawn. However, this is completely blunder the game for black, as now white can play queen to f3 to attack the rook. There is no way to defend the rook unless black give up some of his important pieces. For example, black cannot play b7, as this is just adding the salt to the wound, because after queen captures bishop b7, then the knight cannot go to s6, so the knight will go to c6 and provide the room for queen to protect the rook. But now queen can take the knight, which resulted in check, plus king has nowhere to go unless black queen defend the king to d7. The queen can capture the rook and again resulted in check. Black queen moved to d8 and queen can capture the a7 pawn. As you can see from the board, white has many advantages to win, as black has lost many pieces, and this is why this trap is one of the best chess trap in the game, as it is completely dominating and crushing the black queen side. Back to this position, therefore bishop cannot go to b7 and the knight also cannot go to a6, as the f file is controlled by the white's rook. So black has to give up the knight by playing c6. Queen takes the knight and black reply with bishop to d7. Queen goes to s6, and as you can see from the board, white position is better compared to black, because black has lost one important piece and black queen side is pretty messed up.
Hello, today we're gonna be looking at the legal trap. The legal trap is one of the more common traps that any chess player will come across. So it starts out with white pawn to e4 and black responds to e5. Then white develops knight to f3 and black develops knight to c6. And then we're going to transpose into the Italian game with white bishop to c4. The trap actually comes about when he goes into the Philidor defense, which is black pawn to d6. From here, we're going to simply develop our white knight to c3. And a lot of players that they just like to get their black bishop out and pin down a knight to a queen anytime they can. They're gonna come down as fast as they can and pin the white knight down to the queen at g4. From here, we are simply going to move white pawn to h3. The best move for here is actually for black bishop just to go ahead and capture white knight to f3. But a lot of time, black likes to keep the pressure on the pin, so he's actually just gonna move this bishop back to h5. This is actually a mistake. White is actually gonna go up in material now. From here we can go ahead and lay the trap, and that is white knight takes e5. Now as you can see, this looks really tempting for black, as he can come in and take the white queen. This is actually going to lose the game if black does take the bait. Then white bishop can simply take off f7 and check the king. He obviously cannot take our bishop here because we have our knight at e5, and he cannot move to d7 also because our knight is there. His only move is e7, and we can come with our white knight to d5 and checkmate. So obviously that is the trap. That's how they can fall into it.
Today I will discuss elephant trap. I will play as a black pieces in this game. First, the white move his pawn to d4. Next, we move our pawn to d5. White play his pawn to c4. We respond by playing our pawns to e6. In this situation, white player usually will deliver his knight to c3. After that, we move our knight to f6. White player move his bishop to g5 to apply even more pressure on us. We can start placing a trap by moving our knight to d7. White player usually will start capturing our pawn at d5. We respond by placing our pawn to d5. White players will move his knight by capturing our pawn at d5. White players might think that our black knight on f6 is pinned to the queen, but that's not correct. We capturing his knight by moving our knight to d5. White players usually will capture our queen on d8. With that, white players already make a huge mistake by falling our trap, so we move our bishop to b4 and check his king. White players don't have any pieces to move, so he need to move his queen to d2 to block the check. Therefore, we capture his queen by moving our bishop to d2. White player king had to capture our bishop on d2. Next, we capture his bishop. In conclusion, black can simply sacrifice his own queen with the first move that will win back white's queen and put black in a dominating position.
I'll explain about the Lasker's trap. The Lasker's trap is a chess opening trap in Albin counter gambit. White starts with d4, d5, c4, white offers queen's gambit, e5, Albin counter gambit, d takes e5. Black replies with d4, which will be a potential thorn in the game later on. e3, white plays e3, which is a mistake for white, because white will have a nasty check later on from black with bishop to b4 check. And with the pawn at d4, this move will also block the white knight from coming to c3. So this will bring a big headache for white. Black plays bishop to b4 check. White moves bishop to d2, protecting the king. And black plays d takes e3. White moves bishop to b4, taking the black bishop, and this is actually a big blunder for white. Black takes the pawn at f2 and it's a check. Now if white plays king takes the f2 pawn, it will expose the white's queen at d1, so white must move king e2, and black takes the knight at g1 and promotes it to a knight. This is a very good move, and if white decides to move rook to g1, capturing the g1 square, the bishop will come to g4 and it will check, which skewers the white queen, and the queen is sure to be gone. White moves king to e1 and black replies with queen to h4 check, pressuring the king to move again. White moves king to d2 and black replies knight to c6, and as you can see, any development with white after this will bring big disadvantage to them, and white will eventually lose.
I will present about Blackburn ceiling gambit trap. Many black players like to try this trap in the common Italian game starting by white. White move pawn to e4. The black reply with pawn to e5. Then white move knight to f3. Black reply with knight to c6. White move bishop to c4. Instead of moving the black bishop to c5, black will move the knight to d4 to start Blackburn shilling gambit trap. Then white will get greedy and move the knight to e5 to capture the black pawn. Black will start move the queen to g5. Once again, white will capture the black pawn by moving knight to f7. Black will use the queen to capture the pawn at g2. White will move the rook to f1. Black reply by moving the queen to e4 to capture the pawn and check white king. White will cover and protect the king by moving the bishop to e2. Black will complete the Blackburn shilling gambit trap by moving the knight to f3 and checkmate white king.
So now I'll explain about the England trap. The England trap is an ambitious attempt by black to lure the white into making irrational but dangerous moves. So the first step is, after the white makes its move by moving the pawn to d4, you move your pawn to e5 to let the white eat your pawn later on. And after the white takes your pawn out, you move your knight out to c6. Then the white will make its move maybe by moving its knight to f3. Then you take out your queen to e7. And after that, the white will bring out its bishop to f4, and you'll bring out your queen to b4 to check the king. Then the white will bring its bishop to d2, and you'll bring your queen to b2. And the white will make the move by putting bishop in bc3, and you'll make your bishop move to bb4. Later on, white will bring out its queen to d2, and you'll take on the opponent's bishop at c3. And for the final move, the queen will take on your bishop at c3, and now you make your final move by bringing out your queen to c1, and that's all. Checkmate.
Today I'll be talking about the fishing pole trap. The first movement will be moving the white pawn to e4. The second movement will be the black pawn to e5. The following movement will be the white knight moving to f3, the basic opening for the fishing pole trap. The black knight is moved to c6. To attack the black knight, the bishop is moved to b5. The black knight will be moved to f6. The next step will be castling to keep the king to a closer area. The knight moved to g4. The white pawn moved to h3. Then the black will play h5. After that, most people will capture the knight as it is free, but this is a big blunder by white. H pawn capture g4 pawn. The white knight moves to e1. The queen is moved to h4. The white pawn moved to f3, then the black pawn moved to g3. There is no way to stop black from checkmating white, and this is completely winning for black. The white queen moved to e2, and the black queen moved to h1. So this is basically fishing pole trap, which is really useful and easy to mate white with certain condition.